Hello there, and welcome to Alvarez's Diecast Customs. Now today we're going to be working on this Hot Wheels 1987 Lamborghini Countach. This is probably one of many young man's poster cars they had on the wall as a kid, sort of in the late 80s, early 90s. This particular one is a pretty rough shape, and it's one of those colour changer ones. The colour changing is actually sort of stopped working, and it's just gone this horrid puke colour. I'd imagine it sort of shifted from red to orange, but what we're left with is this horrible looking thing. I've already taken the time to drill the base out on this one. Start off with a 2mm drill bit, work up to a 5mm to remove the main piece of the head off. And I just like to use a 5mm self-tapping screw to screw the base back on. It's got some reasonably decent wheels on there, but we will not be keeping those. Nice little interior. And the window piece, that's in good condition thankfully, just needs a bit of a clean. And just a slight polish and it'll probably be good to go. And that body is just horrendous. That paint is so thick as well. Lord knows how they managed to paint this thing. Must have put the paint in their mouth and just spat it onto the casting in the factories. So yeah, we'll get that stripped off as well. Just go about removing these wheels from the base. Simply going to take my side cutters and pretty much just mangle the teeth off that hold them on. And there we go. There's that base. Get that cleaned up as well. So there's that paint stripped off. Surprisingly, quite a lot of detail onto that paint as well. Wasn't expecting that, especially on the rear end of that car and on the back. Looks really good. As I said, those wheels, they're in good condition and they're quite nice, but we won't be keeping them. I've decided to go with these Real Riders from Hot Wheels. Got sort of quite a retro look to them. Just what I'm after for this car. So just test fitting them as it is for now. Rear wheels won't go in because they're just slightly too narrow for the chassis. So we'll have to make up some axle tubes for those at some point. But in the meantime, let's go about cleaning up this casting. Just using my fine diamond file and just going over the whole body. Just smoothing over any edges and rough areas on it. Just sharpen the whole thing up. Notably around the nose of the body here is very rough. So I spent a bit of time cleaning that up, smoothing it over. So all these little things that really make a difference when you come to sort of put it all together and finish off your paint work on it. It really shows up if you don't spend some time cleaning them up. It's always very ugly if you've got like creases underneath the paint. And there we go, I spent some time cleaning that up. I did use some emery paper to go over the whole thing as well, just to smooth it all over. Just give it a really uniform, sort of smooth finish. I also tried to get the bottom seals of the body here on the chassis, just to smooth those over and make sure they sort of line up nicely, nice and smooth. Just clear that all up. We can go about sorting these wheels out now. So yeah, as you see, the front wheels, they do fit in there, but they're quite narrow. They do sit quite far underneath the wheel arches, just like the stock ones did. But I want to widen them up a bit more than that. Give it a bit more of a wider stance. So just go about clipping these axles into halves. Then we can start working on getting some tubes made up for them. I like to use this brass tubing. It's a 1mm diameter brass tubing. Bought from my local hobby store, but you probably just pick them up on eBay under the same sort of search conditions. As you see, those axles, they drop straight into that tubing, and as you place the tubing into the chassis, it gives you some movement on how you want the wheels sort of set up on them. So here you see I'm just sort of test fitting roughly to where I like the look of where they need to sit. So I sort of hold it steady and just use a Sharpie just to mark on the tubing just exactly where I need to cut it. tubing itself cuts very easily just using some scalpels. Just use a nice sharp blade and roll it over the tubing on a cutting mat and it goes straight through it. Very clean cut, doesn't crush it at all. There you go, you can see with the axles placed into the tube in it, it's a great fit. Just what I'm after. And to glue the axles into them, I just make a little hole using a file and place some super glue into it and thread the axles into them. And they hold it nice and tight. Again, another test fit. I test fit multiple times through the builds I do, just to make sure everything's going where it needs to be. If there's any errors in the way things go together, I can sort them out early on. Yeah, you can see how you're given the ability to widen or narrow the stance on these wheels because of the axles. But I like where that's going at the moment. That's just what I'm after. So I've gone ahead and painted it. Gone with this metallic purple. This is straight out of a spray can. I initially go over the body in 2 coats of grey primer from a spray can and then 2 coats of the metallic purple. The wheels also got hit with some matte black. Thought that was a good colour to go with, a nice contrast, but I also want to pick out the lips on these rims as well, just using this Molotow chrome pen. Just to highlight them. Makes them look pretty cool. So yeah, just go over those. Just following the outer and inner lips that they have. That's a good look, I think. Go about doing all 4. There we go. Set those aside to dry. That chrome pen does take quite a while to dry off before you can start sort of putting your fingers near it. So those are one of the first things I wanted to get out of the way. On the chassis piece, I'll just be adding some extra details on that as well. Just be using this silver Sharpie. It's a very quick and clean method of just picking out some details on these. So I'll just go about picking some of that out. And there we go, that's coming together quite nicely there. Initially looks quite flat to begin with, but we will be hitting that with the Nuln Oil later on. As always, you know how I like using that stuff on my customs, it really pulls them together. I also hit the rear tail lights on the body as well with that silver Sharpie, because they will need to be painted at some point. And now I'm just going over the window rims with some matte black paint as well. Just using a nice fine Tamiya brush and just carefully paint around the edges of the windows with this. Also just painting some extra details there with the vents. You notice I'm using the side of the brush just to paint around the windows. It gives a bit more control of how much paint you're placing onto it. Also, it's got these side scoops. These are in black, I noticed when I did a Google search for some images on these cars. Gives a good bit of contrast to the sides as well. There we go, that's with the window rims painted in. Interior as well, I paint with the same matte black paint, just go over the whole thing. Needed a couple of coats with this because the red plastic's quite waxy. It did take a while for the paint to sort of adhere to it properly. But persistence pays off, it gets it all over it in the end. There we go, set that side to dry. Tail lights get hit with the Tamiya clear red. Looks a bit uneven to begin with, but it's a self-leveling sort of paint, so eventually it does smooth over and looks quite convincing. Now we're on to my favourite stuff, the Citadel Nuln Oil. It's essentially just a black wash, and I'm just going to be going over a lot of the details on this. Notably the chassis, which has got some silver Sharpie paint on it already, and now we're just going to go over it with this Nuln Oil. It really picks out a lot of the details on this. Really gives it a very realistic sort of look to it. I really do like the way this stuff brings out a lot of the details on my castings. It's one of the things I don't think I could live without when I do them. So yeah, covering it all over. There we go. Set that chassis aside to dry off. I started losing control with the Nuln Oil. I just started going all over the body with it as well. So just picking out a lot of the details on these vents on the body. Just really trying to highlight them up. And also just picking out a lot of the details as well around them. It's all the way around the window edges as well. Just really picking them out. Really comes together at the final coat of it. When I put the clear coat of it, this Nuln Oil, I really do like the effect of it. We're getting quite close to completion now, so I'm going to go take it off to do a good clear coat on it, and then we can start putting it back together. Here we are, we're going to put it all back together now. There's that window piece, as I said, just got a quick clean and a quick polish. We used a black Sharpie just to pick out some of the details on the window wipers and the rims on of it as well. There's our interior piece, that had an extra coat of black paint and then a Nuln Oil wash over the top. Came together nicely. There's our chassis, that got hit with a clear coat. That was straight out of a spray can, a polyurethane based one. The wheels themselves with the axles that I made up, those are now super glued into the chassis. Now where's my screwdriver? Going to be needing that. So yeah, there's those 5mm self-tapping screws I like to use. Let's go get that screwdriver. Aha, there it is. Tar for that. Let's get this thing screwed up. Now before we reveal it, let's take a look at what we started with. So yeah, good little car to begin with. Absolutely disgusting paint job of it though, like so thick and vomit coloured. Makes you quite sick just looking at it really. So here's what we ended up with. There's my interpretation of how that car should have looked out the packet. It's got quite a convincing sort of standard Hot Wheels look to it. But as you notice, the extra details I went with on the rear, and also that Nuln Oil wash that I gave over a lot of the body details really pops with that clear coat on it. Really do like how that come together. Let's just take a closer look at it. I think those wheels are a really nice fit for it. They got a really good retro sort of 80s look to them. Very cool. Again, another really nice clear coat, very smooth, very shiny. That was 2 coats of it straight out of a spray can. About a day's drying time just to make sure it's nice and hard before I start putting my fingers all over it. You can see some of that nice detail on the interior through the windows still. These tail lights, I added some extra details there with some silver and orange clear from Tamiya. Chassis looks really good with that Nuln Oil wash over it as well. Yeah, really cool. Very pleased with how that one come out. I actually brought two of these when I purchased them off eBay as well. They come into a little bundle. Came with this white one as well, but the white one itself is actually appears to be in very nice condition. I didn't want to customize it. Yeah, really cool. Do like these cars. Probably had one of these on a poster on my wall as a kid, along with probably a Ferrari F40. Just really cool looking retro cars. So I'll leave you with some more shots of it in the meantime, and I'll be back in a moment. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching this one, seeing me put this one together. Also, if you're interested, I do have an Instagram account. I'm on Alvarez Azel. Please do check me out on there and give me a follow. I've got a lot of content up on there already about some previous customs and some of my artwork and other bits and pieces. Some of my family life with my dogs and all that. So yeah, do please check me out on there. And in the meantime, have a good time. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.